Movies make Roman battles look flashy, chaotic, and full of dramatic sword fights. But real Roman combat was nothing like that. Their weapons weren't used for show. They were used with cold precision, discipline, and teamwork. In this video, we're breaking down how Roman soldiers actually fought, how their weapons were designed to crush enemy formations, and why the real battlefield looked far more brutal and far more organized than anything Hollywood shows. Number 1. Real Roman combat mindset. Roman soldiers approached battle with a completely different mindset than what most people imagine from movies. They didn't fight like lone heroes or skilled duelists showing off sword tricks. A Roman legionary acted as part of a human machine, and every move he made was designed to strengthen the formation rather than display individual skill. Their officers drilled into them from day one that discipline was more important than personal bravery. If the formation held, victory followed. If it broke, no amount of personal strength or talent could save them. Their training focused on repetition until everything felt automatic. Shield placement, footwork, spacing. Soldiers practiced the same patterns until they became reflex. When two shield walls collided, there was no time to think about perfect technique. Romans relied on muscle memory to stay effective. Their goal wasn't to overpower the enemy with strength, it was to overwhelm him with synchronization. Working as a group meant they could keep constant pressure on the enemy line while protecting themselves. This method saved energy and made fighting more predictable even in chaos. Roman soldiers didn't storm forward screaming or breaking ranks. They stepped in rhythm. They advanced behind their shields in a tight wall. They responded instantly to commands. This reduced confusion and made them more dangerous. Most tribal armies fought in loose formations where individuals acted freely. Romans preferred uniformity. When one man lunged, the shield line opened. When everyone moved together, the wall stayed solid. That wall was the heart of Roman warfare. Another important part of the mindset was endurance. Romans trained with heavy wooden practice swords and oversized shields to build strength. They marched long distances with full gear. They built camps daily. All of this conditioned them to fight long battles without exhausting themselves too quickly. Their opponents often faded after the first violent clash. Romans kept grinding forward, step by step. Fear management was also critical. The legionary system was designed to prevent panic. Being surrounded by trained comrades, following known routines, and relying on clear commands reduced the mental stress of battle. Instead of facing chaos alone, every soldier felt part of a structure. This kept units calm under pressure. Panicked soldiers break formation. Calm soldiers maintain it. Understanding this mindset is essential because Roman weapons were built for this style of combat. The pilum, the gladius, and the shield all depended on disciplined, coordinated use. None of them made sense without a soldier who trusted the formation and applied pressure systematically. This mental approach turned average men into a highly effective battlefield force that could outlast, outmaneuver, and outpressure enemies who relied on individual skill or raw aggression. Number 2. How the pilum really worked. The pilum wasn't a typical javelin meant for long-range accuracy. It was a tactical tool engineered to sabotage the enemy before close combat even started. A legionary didn't worry about hitting a specific man. He aimed at the wall of shields in front of him because disabling shields mattered more than scoring hits. The design made this possible. The pilum had a long, soft iron shank attached to a wooden shaft. When the pilum struck a shield, the iron bent, twisted, or pierced deeply, making the shield too heavy or awkward to use. This forced enemies into an impossible choice. They could keep holding a useless, weighty shield that dragged their arm down, or they could drop it entirely and expose their torso. Either option was disastrous. A soldier missing his shield in a shield wall battle is almost defenseless. The pilum didn't need to kill. It only needed to cause disruption at exactly the moment the Roman line advanced. Throwing wasn't a dramatic overhead motion, like in movies. Romans practiced a compact movement to avoid breaking formation. They stepped forward slightly, released the pilum, and immediately returned their stance. The goal was speed and timing, not elegance, and soldiers didn't throw pila all at once. Commanders often ordered staggered throws to maximize confusion. The first line disrupted the shields. The second wave targeted men trying to replace or adjust them. The psychological effect was just as important. Charging toward a Roman line meant facing an intense storm of head-height spears flying at the last moment before the clash. When pila hit, some shields dropped, some warriors flinched, others slowed down. Even a slight hesitation gave Romans the opening they needed to push forward aggressively. The pilum's bending design wasn't an accident. A bent pilum couldn't be thrown back at the Romans. Enemies often complained that once pila landed, their entire front rank became useless. Some shields stuck together if two pila hit close. Others became too front-heavy, pulling the soldier off balance. Legionaries usually carried one pilum, sometimes two depending on the era. After throwing, they immediately shifted into close combat posture, tightening the formation and preparing for the shield collision. No one waited around to admire the throw. The pilum was a one-shot tool that opened the doorway to the next phase of combat. In some battles, pila even broke enemy spear points or got stuck in their weapons. Anything that disrupted coordination or rhythm made the enemy line weaker. And once the Roman line saw hesitation, they closed in fast. The pilum may not look glamorous, but it was one of the most strategically effective weapons of the ancient world because it attacked the enemy's ability to stay organized, which is far deadlier than attacking a single man. Number 3. How the gladius was actually used. The gladius wasn't a slashing sword like movies portray. Its entire purpose was stabbing. In close quarter formation combat, slashing wastes energy, exposes the attacker, and creates gaps in the shield wall. A Roman soldier trained to thrust quickly from behind his scutum without revealing too much of his arm or torso. This style required far less space and offered much better protection. A strong stab to the abdomen, groin, or ribs didn't need much power to disable an enemy. Even a small wound could remove him from the fight. The gladius was short enough to maneuver in extremely tight spaces, which is exactly where Romans preferred to fight. When shield walls locked together, there was no room to swing big blades, but there was plenty of room to stab in a straight line. Roman soldiers practiced a sequence: shield forward, slight push, quick thrust under or around the shield edge, and immediate withdrawal. This allowed them to deliver multiple attacks while staying almost entirely covered. They didn't duel opponents like fencers. They worked in unison with their unit, each soldier creating small openings with shield pressure while someone else delivered the actual stab. The Scutum made this even more effective. Soldiers often punched forward with the shield boss to stun or disrupt the enemy. This momentary shock created gaps in the opponent's stance or shield angle. The gladius strike followed instantly. Enemies who weren't trained to fight in cramped formation often panicked when the Roman shield wall pressed against them. Movies always show swords clashing in dramatic sparks, but real Roman training discouraged blade-on-blade contact. It damages the sword and wastes energy. A soldier aimed for the body, not the weapon. The goal was always to end the fight with minimal movement. A simple, fast thrust was far more lethal than a theatrical swing. The gladius also made it possible for Romans to rotate their front line. When the first rank started getting tired, the second rank stepped forward. Because the fighting required small motions, rotation was smooth and fast. This kept Roman units fresh, while enemies grew exhausted trying to resist the constant pressure. In battles where lines collapsed, Romans used the gladius even more aggressively. They remained close, using shield bashes, short stabs, and rapid footwork to overwhelm opponents who relied on big swords or long weapons. Once the enemy formation cracked, the Romans turned into a compact swarm of stabbing blades. The gladius wasn't glamorous, but it fit perfectly into the Roman system. It was efficient, deadly, easy to maintain, and ideal for the close-range brutality of formation warfare. Its true power came from discipline, training, and the soldier's ability to fight as part of a coordinated, relentless wall of men. Number 4. The Scutum as the core weapon. The Roman Scutum wasn't just a shield, it was the foundation of the entire fighting system. Most movies treat shields as passive defense tools that warriors only raise when they expect a hit. Romans used the scutum as an active weapon, a mobile wall, and the main platform enabling their entire method of combat. Without the scutum, the gladius and pilum tactics wouldn't work. The scutum was large, curved, and covered most of the body when held properly. The curve protected the sides, which made the formation harder to break. A soldier didn't stand tall behind it. He crouched slightly, letting the shield cover from shoulder to mid-shin. This posture created a layered front line where enemy attacks had to get through multiple overlapping shields instead of targeting one man directly. The metal boss in the center wasn't decoration. Romans used it like a reinforced fist. They punched forward with it to shock, push, or unbalance the enemy. This strike didn't need to be hard to be effective. Even a small push could force an opponent to shift weight, lower his guard, or open a gap. The moment a gap appeared, the gladius came through in a quick thrust. When two lines met, the first impact wasn't swords. It was shields colliding. The Romans aimed to break the enemy's posture. Most ancient armies didn't train to fight in close, compressed conditions. They relied on open swings, big movements, and personal space. The scutum denied all that. It suffocated the enemy's ability to move freely. Many battles were won simply because the scutum wall advanced steadily, pushing opponents into panic or retreat. The strength of the scutum wasn't just physical. It created psychological dominance. A giant shield wall moving toward you in perfect rhythm is terrifying. Tribes who fought with smaller shields or looser formations often tried to overwhelm the Romans with noise and speed. But once they hit the scutum wall, their momentum died instantly. They found themselves pressed backwards, unable to breathe, unable to swing freely, and unable to escape the constant stabbing coming from behind the Roman shields. The scutum also enabled advanced formations. The famous testudo wasn't used all the time, but when necessary, it allowed Romans to approach fortified positions under heavy missile fire. The shield's size made full overhead coverage possible when soldiers locked them together. This wasn't a Hollywood parade maneuver. It was a practical solution to survive arrows, stones, and javelins during sieges or heavy missile phases. Another advantage was durability. A scutum could take massive damage before failing. Enemy sword strikes often bounced off or bit into the wood without penetrating deeply. Even if a shield cracked, its curved structure kept it functional until the battle ended. Many archaeological examples show repairs, indicating soldiers reused scuta long after they took damage. The scutum turned average men into a unified combat block. Its design forced discipline, encouraged tight formations, and enabled short-range strikes. It was more than a protective tool. It was the central piece of the Roman war machine, the structure that made the gladius lethal and pilla effective. The reason Roman infantry could grind through armies much larger than themselves. Number 5. Spears, auxiliaries, and the real battle flow. While the gladius and pilum get most of the attention, Roman warfare was not limited to these weapons. Spears, javelins, slings, and bows all played key roles, especially in auxiliary units recruited from different regions of the empire. The Roman army wasn't a monoculture. It was a combination of specialized troops designed to complement each other and fill tactical gaps. The hasta, a thrusting spear used in early Roman history, and in many auxiliary units later, offered reach and control before the gladius phase. Spear-armed units often formed behind or beside the legionaries, supporting them against cavalry or providing extra pressure on enemy infantry. Auxiliary troops from places like Thrace or Gaul were known for long spears and aggressive skirmishing. They didn't fight in the same tight formation as legionaries, but they provided flexibility and mobility the heavy infantry lacked. Before close combat, Roman armies relied heavily on ranged attackers. Slingers were extremely accurate, and their lead bullets could crack skulls, break arms, and pierce armor at shocking distances. Archers created pressure against enemy formations and forced them to stay defensive. Javelin units kept opponents from advancing too quickly or forming tight lines. All of this weakened the enemy before the legionaries even moved. When the main engagement began, Pila delivered the crucial disruption. As soon as Pila caused shield chaos, the Roman line surged forward. The clash between shield walls determined whether the enemy could stay organized. If the enemy broke, auxiliaries on the flanks often rushed in to exploit gaps. They hunted routing enemies, cut off escape paths, or applied pressure from the sides where the Roman heavy infantry couldn't maneuver quickly. The real battle flow wasn't a chaotic melee. It followed a predictable structure. Missile fire to soften, Pila to disrupt, shields to crash, gladius to finish. This sequence allowed even outnumbered Roman units to hold their ground. Spears played a crucial role against cavalry as well. While movies show cavalry charging into Roman infantry with ease, in reality, it was extremely difficult to break a Roman spear line. Auxiliary spearmen and legions working together created layered defense zones. Horses rarely charged directly into shield walls bristling with spear points. When the enemy line collapsed, Roman discipline didn't vanish. They didn't chase wildly. Units advanced in controlled waves, ensuring no surprise counterattacks. Auxiliaries often acted as pursuers, while legionaries reformed ranks. The strength of the Roman army came from the combination of different weapons used in coordinated timing. Every tool, the gladius, the scutum, the pilum, the hasta, the javelin, and more, had a specific moment when it mattered most. Roman warfare wasn't about individual glory. It was about system, structure, timing, and relentless pressure. And that system, built around practical weapons and disciplined soldiers, allowed the Romans to dominate ancient battlefields for centuries.